Again, my name is Tony, as Pastor Kevin stated. If you don't know me, I've been attending Connectus Church probably since the very beginning. Those who do know me, you're going to get to know me a lot more after today. Yes. Again, my name is Tony. I remember going to the teaching team meeting. Thank you. We met at Mix across the street from where I work, and Pastor Kevin's like, hey, we're going to start a new series here in August, and it's about mental health, and I want you to be the first speaker. And I'm like, oh boy, I was like, well, that's far off. You know, like we met in April or May. I was like, oh, that's far off. But hey, here we are. We're here. So it's always a very interesting subject, mental health, and Pastor Kevin's like, hey, I had shared some of my past struggles with him over the many years that we've been friends and have done ministry together. And he was like, hey, I want you to, be the first one to share. And he wanted me to kind of do like a little testimony, also kind of use comparable to an individual in the Bible. So I'm going to intertwine both stories together. Now, the person in the Bible that I'm going to talk about, just pretty much everything has come from the Gospels, but I'm not going to go like, verse, it's going to be basically his testimony. And then there is some historical context as well, just to let you guys know. So I'm not going to be like, in John. No, it's going to be basically two stories, my story and this individual story. Mental health, my mental health in general. Let's start there. That is a very layered subject. And I didn't think my lovely wife was going to be here because she was scheduled to be in ministry, or kids ministry. But lo and behold, she is here. So that's a very pleasant surprise. She's probably the only one. No, I cannot. No, she's one of the ones in this building. And then Jason, if you guys know Jason, I've known Jason my whole life. Only two people that know the entire story of my past history, mental health journey, as we'll call it. I started off when I was younger, loving family and all that jazz, but I always wanted to fit in. You ever you feel like you want to fit in with school, you want to be not like considered cool, but you just don't want people to pick on you. Well, that unfortunately wasn't my scenario. I was picked on relatively a lot. I was born with a cleft palate. Not like a cleft lip, but a cleft palate. I was born with a hole in my mouth. So when I was younger, I had issues with speech. Like it basically sounded like I was talking through my nose like a lot. So anyway, that's just ripe for picking right there. Different. So anyway, I always felt like I didn't belong in life or social circles. I always felt like I was different. Didn't really know Jesus growing up. Didn't have a lot of church background. When I was younger, we'll get to that later. I accepted Christ initially right out of high school with a friend, but I had some, struggles. There's a little bit deeper layers, but I'm not going to get into that totally. Maybe at some point in my life, I'm not exactly there. But basically, when I was 17, I felt like a nuclear explosion went off in my body. That was what I would consider my first episode. And I had no idea what was going on. So basically this rush of anxiety came over me. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. I was completely paralyzed by, mental health. I was completely paralyzed and I didn't know what to do. And I didn't grow up in a family where, we shared. Loving family, but we didn't share. I mean, they grew up in that time period where you didn't show weakness, especially mental health. So I didn't really know what to do. I didn't know how to share. I just kind of plugged along as best as I could. But now looking back, that was my first episode of bipolar. I have been diagnosed with bipolar 2. I was officially diagnosed in my early 20s, but that was my first episode. So I was diagnosed with bipolar 2. I certainly did not accept that at all. I was like, no, I'm not. There's nothing. I already experienced there's something weird with me, and there isn't going to be another thing that's weird with me. I had a hard enough time in this life, but no, that was it. So basically, I got put on medication that seemed to help, but then, you're young and stupid, and you're like, oh, it's fixed, and then I'm going to take myself off the medication. Well, obviously, that was just a long period of time of back and forth, taking myself off medication. And then when I would go back into, I would say, another episode, I would, instead of taking medication, that's healthy, I started using alcohol as my medication. And that was a couple of year period where, I was drinking pretty much every day. It started when I was on a high, when I felt good, I was using alcohol as a way to connect with people and all that. I finally felt like I belonged a little bit. I started working out a lot too, which was different. This was a long time ago, obviously. But yeah, I was in my early 20s. I was built. I was decently built. And it was really weird because I never had the opposite sex really interested in me until that 3-year period when I was working out, and all of a sudden I was getting attention. Sorry. My daughter wanted to come in and hear this, but I was like, not today. No, not today at all. So this is not the one for her to see, or hear, I should say. But anyway, so that was, that's good. Working out is good for mental health, obviously, but I was using it I was just obsessed with it. But then when I went down, basically bipolar is, I wasn't bipolar 1, I was never hallucinating. I never thought I was president of the United States or anything like that. Basically for me, bipolar 2 is I would have a rush of energy, and obviously working out was good, and I was productive, and I was social, and I was talking, and I was just coming out of my shell. And then I would hit an episode, and I would go nosedive, paralyzed of anxiety and depression. You can't even breathe. It's this, and miraculously, I held a job through that. I'm not sure how, but I know a lot of people do not going through that experience. But so yeah, it was just this constant up and down, but I was using alcohol for both. When I was, on a high upward swing, and then certainly when I was on a downward swing, I used alcohol as my medication. And then during really extremes of both, I would have issues sleeping. And then, so I would never really dabbled in extracurricular, drugs that were not legal. But what I would do is I would take 10 Ativan or something like that and take it at one time, because I needed to sleep. I wanted to sleep, or Ambien, or, one of those sleeping medications. I would just abuse that, because I couldn't sleep, and I was just trying for any way to sleep. But, so that was basically my early 20s. Exciting. It was very rough, actually. It was very, very hard. I would be out to the bar, hanging out with friends, and, I had become social. I had made friends. I had made enemies too, don't get me wrong. But I made friends. So I was hanging out with people that would never hang out with me in high school. After high school, I was more popular, whatever that means. So I even got voted. We had a class reunion, and that was in the midst of me working out and getting in shape. And I was voted most changed since high school. And I love that. Because, it was I felt like a good thing. I was eating that up and everything. But then, like I said, I nosedived again. And I would go to the bar, and pretty much every night I would drink. And then, please don't do this, but I would drink and drive every night. It was about a couple miles away from where my parents. I was still living at home at the time. And I remember I just wanted to die. There's no way around. I wanted to die. I couldn't handle it anymore. Legitimately, I felt like I couldn't put the show on anymore, and I literally would pray to God that I would somehow run into a tree, and that my parents would think it was, I was drunk, that I wasn't doing it on purpose, I couldn't handle it. I couldn't speak. I couldn't talk to anyone. It was just a rough place. I did get admitted for a couple of days in the hospital, and they made me go to AA. So that's something that a lot of people don't know. So I did AA for a while. So that kind of got my drinking, and my parents were more aware of what was going on. There was, obviously I wasn't right. So anyway, I got on my medication again, stuck with it. and I was about 25, and then I met a lovely young lady, Tori, who was 22, I guess, at the time. And that was obviously the best thing, that ever happened. Meeting someone like she definitely, because I remember the one time, I was drinking and you were angry with me. She was angry because then I wanted her to pick me up from the bar. And I remember her picking me up. We were just newly dating, and she was very angry with me that I was, drinking, and she didn't want this. And I basically, ever since then, I was good. And I wanted, obviously, her to be with me. I wanted to feel loved. That was another issue. I felt like I wasn't capable to be loved. Everyone was just tell me we're rooting for you. Everyone's rooting for you, but you hate yourself. You don't love yourself, and that's absolutely true. So yeah, that's kind of where we're going to continue on with that. But I want to jump into the Bible a little bit, a person from the Bible who his story kind of screamed to me, and Kevin said he wanted me to do an example, and I knew exactly who I was going to do. I hope everyone knows a man named Peter in the Bible. Peter was one of Jesus's 12 disciples. He was actually in the inner 3 disciples, meaning that he was one of the closest to Jesus as they were doing ministry for those 3 years. Jesus even called him, that's why he even named him Peter. He was originally Simon, but Peter renamed him Peter, or Jesus renamed him Peter because he felt like he was the rock. Peter was the rock. During the Last Supper, Jesus tells his disciples before he's going to be persecuted, Jesus tells Peter that he is going, first he says Judas is going to betray him, but then, he's like, Jesus tells his disciples that they're going to flop like sheep. They're going to run away like sheep, basically, when he's persecuted. And Peter, who was like, oh, no, Lord, I would die for you. And Jesus looks at him and he's like, you're going to deny me 3 times before the rooster crows that night. And Peter's like, no, not at all. So anyway, Jesus is praying in the garden, before he gets captured. Before Judas leads the Jewish leaders and the guards to capture Jesus. And I guess, Peter did have an act of heroism in him. He took a sword and cut off one of the guards' ear from the high priest. So, he basically was showing, what he was taught, and he was going to protect Jesus. But Jesus obviously rebuked him, and he didn't mean it in that he did not want it done in that way. So Jesus is therefore taken by the guards, by the high priest and everything, obviously to be questioned. And it says in the Bible that Peter follows from a very distant, take that word, a distant. He, didn't want to be too close. He didn't want to be captured like, Jesus was. So Peter is at a distance, and therefore, Jesus is being tortured, whipped, everything like that. Someone recognizes Peter. The first person recognizes Peter. And Peter denies that he knows Jesus. No, I don't know him at all. You're crazy. I don't know him. All right, about an hour later, someone else recognizes Jesus. Recognizes Peter that he knows Jesus. And he's like, no way. No, I don't know him again at all. I picture myself in his shoes, he's seeing Jesus being absolutely tortured. And, I think a lot of us would be scared to death. And we would be like, oh, no, I don't want anything to do with that. We might go into it the best, meaning on our heart, but it's like, oh, I'm not going to do that. And finally, the third person recognizes Peter. It's like, you're one of his followers. And Peter's like, no, that's crazy. Nope. And then, sure enough, and Jesus stares right at him, making eye contact, and the rooster crows, and Peter just melts down. It says he runs out and cries bitterly. Not just cries bitterly. He is completely broken from that. And that's why I identify with Peter. I can just feel his shame, his guilt. Because honestly, when I'm having my downturns, like that is what I feel. I feel shame and guilt mostly. So I kind of struggle getting from that. So back to my story. I had my last really bad episode when, so I ended up marrying Tori. Obviously, she's here. We got married at 20. I got married when I was 27. She was 24. And like, any young couples, we wanted to, start a family. So we had our first daughter, Lily. Obviously, you know that. Lily's here as well. And, that was great and everything. Everything was great first year. And then I had my last really bad episode when Lily was 1. Tori, obviously, you remember that. That was a really bad episode, and that was a couple of months of just really downturn. So at that point, it's amazing how having a family, urges you or, wanting you to do the best you can to get better. So I really went to different doctors. I tried different medications. And I'm not ashamed to admit it. I'm on 3 medications every day. I religiously take them. Like, as you get older, you get less stupid. I mean, I'm still stupid, but a little bit less than I was certainly in my 20s. So I take I take 3 decently powerful medications, and they've helped me. They helped me a lot. I mean, there is a little bit of concern, like how, later or in my years of life, like taking these potent medications, what it's going to do to me. But I told Tori, I'm willing to face that because it wasn't living, before. I started taking so basically with these medications, and we'll get to God as well. Basically with these medications, I don't go off the rail anymore. I'll still have episodes, but here's off the rail, but I stay in here. I'm still functional. And it's it's obviously a lot better. I've been living a fairly normal life the last 10 years. And I know a lot of Christians, and believe me, I've been in the church for a while now, not in this church, but other churches. It's you don't want to share your mental health struggles. That's not a very common thing to do. I did at a men's group one time, and basically I was just saying I wasn't a Christian enough or I wasn't praying enough, to end my mental health journey. So, I mean, I guess, certainly God can heal us. He just hasn't chosen to yet. So we got to go with what, the best we can. Medication has really, really helped me. And obviously, I had, not to go back, I also was going to Bible school there for a little bit, which is crazy to think about because I certainly was not there mentally, grad school, but I did take some preaching classes, and which is great. I mean, and, different learning about the Bible classes, and, that was really cool, but I certainly was not in the frame of mind to do any kind of ministry work. I mean, now, so I was on the sidelines for a good 15 or so years. Just recently started, to dust it off a little bit. I've been speaking here for every now and then, but it's definitely different this time. I have spoken in churches before, but it's different now. I'm middle-aged now, and I'm just a broken individual like everyone else, and and it humbles you, it very much humbles you. So, it's just a middle-aged man, trying his best, and then I had a moment. So I got a little bit better, mentally, like I said, with these medications. I'm not going off the rail as much, but I wasn't there with God either. I told you, about 4 or 5 years ago, I reconnected with God. It was a night where I just felt like his presence, and basically I just felt like I had let everyone down, not necessarily my mental illness, just because I was a jerk. And I had a hard heart, and I was just selfish and arrogant, and God just revealed my terrible character one night. And I remember just being teary-eyed, and I knew I needed to, reconnect with God. And ever since then, I've, reconnected with God. And people have said I changed. I think my wife said I've changed. I mean, I didn't make a really big deal about it, but I did. And hence we're here today. I never thought I would be up here. Like, even a few years ago, I never thought I would be up here. That's just not me, but here we are. Like, so, right, Larry? All right, so we're going to go back to Peter because God's going to redeem Peter as well. So, obviously, Peter, they're not sure exactly how many, probably a couple weeks after he denied Jesus, the night of when Jesus getting whipped and everything. A couple weeks later, Jesus is obviously resurrected, praise God. And he comes to the shoreline. And Peter, I can only imagine, I mean, this is not in the Bible at all, but I can only imagine how terrible Peter had felt. All right, do you imagine traveling, camping, doing ministry together probably every day for 3 years? And Peter was not just one of Jesus's 12 disciples. He was like one of the closest to Jesus. So literally, they were probably best friends. Like, let's be honest. Like, they were probably best friends. Like, probably even deeper than friendship, almost like brothers at that point. 3 years. That's a long time. And, spending together, knowing pretty much everything about each other, I would imagine. So it's not only that. He let his friend down, like, of 3 years. But then Jesus happened to be the savior of the world. Like, you imagine how guilty, how terrible he would have felt. Like, I can just imagine sleepless nights, not eating, just feeling like shame and terrible. That's why I identify with Peter. It's like that. I would imagine that guilt, that shame that he would have felt. But anyway, Jesus reconnects with his disciples after he's resurrected, and Jesus goes to the shoreline, and Peter and the other guys are fishing. Peter sees them right away, dives into the water, like right away. There was no whatever, and swims over to Jesus. And Jesus, knowing, I think he knew obviously Jesus' character, and Jesus didn't like slug him or anything crazy like that. Jesus accepts him, even makes him breakfast, and then basically like 3 times ask him if Peter loves him, and Peter says yes, and he forgives Peter. And Peter's story did not end that night he rejected Jesus. Peter's story started when Jesus forgave him. Do you imagine that Peter would go on to be he was one of the founding fathers of the modern day church. Like, this guy rejected Jesus, and Jesus said, go, you're the rock of, my church. And Peter is one of the founding fathers, one of the most, and it's crazy. And my thing is, I wonder how that helped Peter, being broken, rejecting Jesus, how that helped him with his ministry years down the line, how that changed him, how that humbled him. I'm sure that made him have the ability to connect with people, to understand where people are, because Peter had felt that himself. Friends, like, I've been broken, like, too many times to count. I've been broken, like, down to nothing. Like, I really haven't. I know others in this room have as well. And we do the good thing. We put the mask on, and we're like, oh, everything's great. But then we go home and cry, like, for, 2 hours straight, Like, we put this mask on, but it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to be broken, because Jesus will be there for us, just like he was there for Peter, just like he's been there for my life. I shouldn't be up here, guys. Like, I really should not. Like, the things I've done, like the terrible and just everything. But I'm here. Like, I'm up here speaking to you today only because of God, just like Peter, only because of God. Now I'm here. And, and he obviously has done that for you too. But Peter, obviously he went off and Jesus forgave him, and he went off and he made so many, Like he preached the good news to so many people. I mean, him and Paul, that's another, but him and Paul basically handled the Gentiles and Peter handled the Jewish people mostly. But like they went out and preached the great news all around. I mean, and then honestly, Peter did not live a great life then. Like he died horrifically. So that Peter did not forget that night that he betrayed Jesus. He did not forget that night that he denied Jesus. Because now this is historical. This is not in the Bible. This is historical. Peter was captured by the Romans, and he was going to be persecuted. And Peter's like, I will not die the same way as Jesus. I do not deserve that, to die the same way as this Jesus. You knew he remembered that night, before he was going to be persecuted. You knew he remembered. And his mind went back to that night. I'm sure it did. And Peter's like, I don't deserve it to die the way that Jesus died. So he was literally persecuted, hung upside down. You imagine how terrible that would be? Being persecuted like the right way would be horrible, but upside down would be absolutely terrible. That's how Peter, died. But he was not like afraid at that point, But then there's Judas, who also betrayed Jesus that night, like truly betrayed Jesus. And Judas Peter took the other way. He realized his story wasn't over that night, whereas Judas thought the story was over that night for him, and he ended up hanging himself. I believe that all of us in this room are Peters, that our story isn't done. Our story is not done, friends. My story is not done. I can tell you my story is not done. I mean, I shouldn't be, like I said, here right now, but God held me in his hand, like he's holding you in his hand. And that's where I'm on medication. I'm on medication because I want to be a good husband, a good father. I want to be a good friend. Also, I'm on medication because I can't do God's work when I'm not on medication. So that's why so if any Christian, if like you have a mental illness or anything, if other Christians are like, pray it away or whatever, that's probably the wrong thing to say. That's probably the wrong thing to say. It didn't make me feel good. Just stop thinking about it. Probably the wrong thing to say, friends. The best way I still have a friend actually, and he got me back into working out, which is good because I need to work out again. But I have a friend who was there for me during the worst time period 10 years ago. We're still friends. But you know what I remember? He was just there. He was just text me like, hey, how are you? Like there was no trying to fix me. He was just there. That's what we can be for each other when we're all going to go through hard times. This life is hard. As we all know, life is hard, and there's things going on. There can be short-term mental health, like a death of someone you're close to, depression. Let's just be there for each other, like God is there for us. But yeah, no, I've lived a fairly normal life for the last 10 years, and enjoying life and just very blessed. I'm not worthy of what I'm blessed with, but God has blessed me abundantly. And I just want to pray for all of us. I want to pray, no more mask. Let's get over us, a church in general, with this mental health. It's like the silent assassin. It's so much better to talk to someone openly than doing something terrible, like ending your life or whatever. It's so much better to reach out. And for those who reach out, and for those who are being, hey, something's going on, be there for someone. Don't be busy. Be there like you would want someone to be there for you. Listen to them, pray for them. Just listen. Just be there. Come over and get groceries or something if someone's depressed. Mow their lawn, something that they just don't feel like they're able to do at that time of depression. Just be there. Let's be there for you. And no more masks, no more. It's done. We're done. I want to be done with this nonsense. Mental illness, it's a weakness. No, it's something that's affected. So many people are affected by it. It's ridiculous how many people are affected by it. And we just need to knock it off with that nonsense. And in the church in general, not this church. I feel like there's a lot of real people in this church. but in general, no more masks. Let's be there for each other. Let's be real with each other. And I just want to pray. Thank you, Lord, that we can be here today, and that we can learn more about you and more about your forgiveness and more about your love that you have for us and all of us here. Lord, I just pray for any of those who are struggling with anxiety or depression or anything that's going on. I just pray for healing, for comfort, for friends to be there for you, for obviously God's going to be there for you, to turn to God, turn to his word, turn to his love for us. Lord, I just pray this in Jesus' great name. Amen.